She was the maid. He was the powerful Arab billionaire single dad who never bowed for anyone, not even royalty. But on a cold Thursday night, he dropped to his knees in front of her, tears in his eyes, his son clinging to her dress. And the entire palace staff froze. Because no one, not even his ex-wife, had ever seen Sheikh Zaran beg. "Please, don't leave us," he whispered. And in that moment, the maid became the most powerful woman in the room. Her name was Maya, 24 years old. From Ghana, smart, bold, and too stubborn to cry, even when life threw her into the back door of a royal Dubai estate as a live-in maid. She thought she'd just clean floors, fold designer sheets, and survive the next 12 months in silence. What she didn't expect was that the Sheikh's little son, 4-year-old Amin, would cling to her like a second heartbeat. Amin hadn't spoken in a year. Not since his mother, Zaran's ex-wife, vanished with another billionaire and left the child behind without a word. Zaran, a cold, emotionally distant CEO, hired over a dozen nannies, therapists, and tutors. All failed, until Maya showed up. She wasn't trained, she wasn't rich, she didn't come with references. But the first time she met Amin, he hid behind the curtains and whispered, "Are you going to leave me too?" She froze, then knelt, held out her hand, and simply said, "Not unless you ask me to." From that moment on, he never let go. Zaran was furious at first. The child is getting too attached. It's not professional, but he kept watching her from the corner of his eyes. How she made Amin laugh again. How she cooked with love. How she danced with the boy during thunderstorms. How she kissed his forehead when she thought no one was looking. And then, how his own heart began to shift. He started waiting in the kitchen just to catch a glimpse of her humming. He found excuses to walk past the playroom when her laughter echoed. And at night, when Amin was asleep, Zaran sat in silence, realizing the palace didn't feel like a prison anymore. It felt like home, because of her. But palace walls hold secrets. And someone had been watching too. His ex-wife. And she wasn't done with her son, or her ex-husband. Especially not after hearing rumors that he'd fallen for the maid. The storm was coming, and Maya, who had just begun to feel safe, was about to be forced to choose. Her freedom, or the man who broke every rule to kneel for her. Just when Maya thought she'd found her place, the woman who broke the Sheikh's heart came back. Not to apologize, not to beg, but to reclaim everything she abandoned: the child, the palace, and the man who was finally learning to love again. And she had only one goal: destroy the maid. The palace gates hadn't opened in weeks. But on a stormy Friday morning, a black Rolls-Royce pulled up. 4 men in tailored suits stepped out. And behind them, Layla, Zaran's ex-wife, international model, heiress to an oil dynasty. The woman who left without looking back. Now she was back. Red lipstick, snakeskin heels, eyes sharp as knives. She walked in like she never left. "Darling," she purred, "I've come for my son." Zaran's jaw clenched. Amin, playing with Maya in the garden, froze when he saw her. He didn't run to his mother. He ran behind Maya's legs and cried. Layla's eyes narrowed. "Interesting," she hissed, "he's attached to the maid. No matter, I'll break that bond quickly." Later that night, Maya heard shouting from the study. "You have no right, Layla. You left him. You haven't called in over a year. I didn't sign away custody, Zaran. And you betting the maid? How cliché. The media would love that story." Maya stepped back, heart pounding. She wasn't just a maid anymore. She was a threat to a woman who had power, money, and now a legal team behind her. 2 days later, Maya was summoned. Zaran stood by the fireplace, his eyes bloodshot. He didn't speak. He just handed her a manila envelope. Inside was a termination letter. And a check for $500,000. "This isn't from me," he whispered. "It's to protect you. Layla is taking me to court. She's threatening everything, even Amin. If the court finds out the child is emotionally dependent on a maid." He couldn't finish. Maya shook her head, tears already falling. "So I'm being fired to protect your reputation?" Zaran stepped forward, grabbed her hands. "No, I'm asking you to leave to protect our son. He could lose everything if they paint this wrong." She pulled away. "You didn't even ask me what I want. Because I already know, you'd choose Amin." That night, she packed. Amin cried himself to sleep, curled up in her lap. And as Maya stood at the palace gates the next morning, suitcase in hand, a shadow appeared behind her. It was Zaran, breathing hard, hands shaking. Then he did the one thing no one believed possible. He dropped to his knees. In front of the entire staff. "Please, Maya, don't go. I love you. Amin needs you. I need you." Gasps filled the air. Even Layla, watching from the balcony, dropped her wineglass. But Maya turned away. Then fight for us. Don't just beg. And she walked through the gate, not as a maid, but as a woman who would no longer be kept in the shadows. Maya walked away, but the fight had only just begun. Because Zarin wasn't done begging. He was ready to go to war. And as the court date loomed, Layla dropped a nuclear twist. Amin might not be your son. One test, one lie, one truth that could destroy everything. The tabloids went insane. Arab billionaire's maid breaks up royal family? African nanny or billionaire's secret lover? Custody battle explodes. Is the child even his? Zarin's name was dragged through every corner of the internet. Layla stood on red carpets, giving staged interviews with crocodile tears. He replaced me with a maid. Now he wants to take my child too? That's not love, that's manipulation. But Maya stayed silent. She went back to Ghana, tried to rebuild her life. But every day, she waited for news. From him. Then the message came. A courier knocked on her door with a handwritten letter. Maya, the court date is set. Layla's lawyers are pushing for full custody. But I've filed my response. I named you as Amin's guardian. If I lose everything. But if you show up, we might still win. Zarin. She stared at the words for hours. Then she looked at the child's drawing she'd kept in her journal. A picture Amin made of me, Daddy, and Maya. She booked the next flight. The courtroom was a battlefield. Zarin arrived in a sharp black suit, Maya by his side, head high. Layla wore white, pretending to be innocent. But the venom in her eyes when she saw Maya back would have poisoned the entire city. The judge asked simple questions. But Layla was ready with her final card. She stood, handed over a sealed envelope, and declared, "Before we decide custody, I believe there's one test Your Honor needs to see. A DNA report proving that Zarin is not Amin's biological father." Gasps echoed. Maya's knees almost buckled, Zarin's face drained of color. The judge opened the file. Silence. Then a sigh. This is not admissible. The test was conducted without the father's legal consent. Do you have evidence that this was approved? Layla's face paled. The judge continued. However, per protocol, the court ordered its own DNA verification last week. Everyone leaned forward. According to this sealed, court-approved test, Sheikh Zarin al-Rashid is the 100% confirmed biological father of Amin al-Rashid. Boom. Layla's act shattered. She tried to recover. He forged it. This whole thing is a setup. Look at her. She manipulated my child. But the judge raised his hand. Enough. I've heard all I need. 30 minutes later, the ruling was delivered. Full custody awarded to Sheikh Zarin. Maya Sc Addo to be granted legal guardianship and primary caregiver rights. Case closed. Outside, reporters screamed for statements. Layla stormed out in silence. But Zarin turned to Maya in front of the cameras. Then dropped to one knee, again. This time, with a ring. You were never the maid. You were the mother, the miracle, and the woman I should have fought for from the start. Will you marry me, Maya? She didn't speak. She just nodded through tears and whispered, on one condition. Anything. We tell Amin together. She won the courtroom. She won the child's heart. And now, she'd won the billionaire's proposal. But marrying Zarin wasn't just about love. It meant stepping into a palace that was built to reject her. Because while Maya was busy planning a future with the man she loved, Zarin's family was planning her downfall. The world knew her name now. Maya Sc Addo, the maid who tamed the sheikh. Social media exploded. Hashtag from broom to bride trended for weeks. Fashion magazines offered her covers. TV networks begged for interviews. But Maya refused them all. She wasn't chasing clout. She was chasing peace. And a safe, happy life for little Amin, who had finally started to laugh without fear. But not everyone was laughing. When Maya stepped foot into the royal estate as the sheikh's fiancée, the atmosphere turned cold. The servants who once whispered, "Thank you," behind her back, now bowed in silence. The royal advisors looked at her with clenched jaws and fake smiles. They addressed her as Madam Maya, but behind her back? She's not one of us. She's African, a cleaner. She doesn't belong. And at the center of it all was Zarin's mother, the Queen Dowager. A woman of tradition, pride, and a hatred for scandal. The first time they met, Maya wore a modest cream dress and brought flowers. The Queen didn't even glance at them. "You may fool my son with tears and an innocent face," she said coldly. "But you will never sit on the throne of this family." Maya smiled gently. "I don't want your throne. Just your grandson's smile, and your son's love." The queen blinked. For a second, just a flicker, she seemed unsure. But it was gone in an instant. Later that night, Zarin found Maya sitting alone in the rose garden. I saw the way she looked at you. Maya didn't speak. He sat beside her. I was raised by a woman who thinks power is inherited. But you made a broken child speak. You made a cold man feel again. That's real power. Then he slipped a ring on her finger. Not in front of cameras, not in front of royalty, but under the moon. No crown will ever shine brighter than you, Maya. The wedding date was announced. But just when they thought peace had returned, an anonymous email leaked to the press. Zarin's African fiancé accused of fraud, blackmail, and identity theft. Exposed by palace insiders. Photos, forged documents, accusations, all fake, all timed perfectly to ruin her before she walked down the aisle. And Zarin? He was called to an emergency royal tribunal. Call off the wedding, the family demanded. If you don't, we'll strip you of your name, your power, everything. Zarin looked them in the eye and said, then strip it all. Because I'd rather live as a nobody with her than rule as a king without her. Just days before her wedding, Maya was branded a fraud. Fake documents, dirty rumors, whispers of prison time, but behind the lies was someone inside the palace pulling the strings. And when Zarin finally discovered who betrayed them, it wasn't his ex-wife. It was someone far closer. Someone who had stood by his side since birth. His own brother. The media firestorm spread like wildfire. Sheikh Zarin's fiancé exposed? African Maid faces deportation as royal family reacts to shocking leaks. Royal aides resigned. Wedding planners pulled out. Even Maya's flight back to Ghana was mysteriously flagged for immigration review. Everything was crumbling. And Zarin? He was being blackmailed. The royal board gathered him for a private intervention. Call it off. Save your name, or everything your business, your title, your son's future ends. Zarin stood, heart thundering. He wasn't just a billionaire. He was a father, a man, a protector. And right now, the only person he needed to protect was Maya. While the world tried to destroy her, Maya stayed in hiding with Amin, under heavy security arranged by Falcon, Zarin's trusted bodyguard. But even Falcon began to suspect the leak came from someone closer than the queen. One night, he checked the surveillance logs. And there it was, footage from 2 weeks ago. A man entering Zarin's private office late at night, opening his safe, photocopying documents, then emailing something on a burner phone. The man? Rashid al-Rashid, Zarin's older brother. Rashid had always been jealous. When Zarin was crowned CEO of the al-Rashid fortune, Rashid became a silent shareholder. He smiled in public, but hated Zarin's popularity, his money, his influence. But the final straw? Was Maya. You're willing to ruin the family name for her? Rashid had once said. Now, he was willing to destroy everything to stop her from entering the family legally. Zarin stormed into the royal board meeting the next morning, with the footage. He played the clip in silence, watched their smug faces melt into panic. Then he dropped a folder on the table. Inside, every fake document, every lie, traced back to Rashid's burner account. The Queen Dowager gasped. He's your brother. Zarin replied coldly, so was Kane. He turned to the board. Let it be known, I'm withdrawing from the al-Rashid royal authority. From today on, I build my own legacy. Not under your roof, but with my family. With Maya. He tossed his royal ring on the floor. Keep your crown. I've already found my queen. That night, he drove through the rain to the safe house. Maya stood at the door, hair wrapped in a scarf, eyes swollen from crying. He held up the wedding ring. The world tried to ruin you. My family tried to erase you. But you're still standing. So tell me, will you still marry me, without the throne, without the title, just me? Maya smiled through tears. You were never the throne, Zarin. You were the man behind it. She held out her hand. Now let's build something they'll never understand. She walked down the aisle without royal approval. Married the billionaire who gave up everything just to love her. And just when she thought it was happily ever after, a face from her past returned. One she thought was buried. One secret that could unravel everything. Because Maya wasn't always just a maid. She had a life before Zarin, and a lie she never confessed. The wedding was quiet. No tabloids, no tiaras, just palm trees swaying gently in the wind and little Amin holding the rings in trembling hands. Zarin wore a white robe trimmed with gold. Maya wore a gown sewn in Accra, a mix of tradition and freedom, bold and pure. As they exchanged vows under the evening sky, the former billionaire prince whispered, I gave up a kingdom to be yours." And Maya, eyes brimming with joy, said, "You didn't lose a crown. You found a soul." They danced under lanterns and kissed beneath the stars. Falcon smiled from the sidelines, ever watchful. Even the Queen Dowager, surprisingly, sent a single white rose with a card. A true queen blooms on her own. It seemed, finally, everything was perfect. Until 2 weeks later, Maya stood alone in the bathroom, hands shaking. The test flashed one word: positive. She was pregnant. She had barely told Zarin when a call came from Ghana, a number she hadn't seen in years. When she answered, the voice on the other end froze her heart. "You thought I died, Maya. But I'm alive, and I want to see my child." His name was Kwame, the man Maya once loved before her life fell apart. The man who disappeared when she was just 19, and whom she believed had died in a market explosion. But he hadn't. He had been in prison under a false identity. And now he was free, looking for the son Maya never told Zarin about. Because before the palace, before Amin, before Zarin's love, Maya had a child, a son she had to give up to protect. A secret buried in pain and fear. And now, that secret was knocking on her door. Zarin found her crying that night. She confessed everything. About Kwame, about the child, about how she ran to Dubai to earn money to reclaim him someday. About how she never meant to fall in love again, until him. Zarin didn't yell. He didn't flinch. He just stepped forward, placed a hand on her belly, and whispered, "We're not breaking. We're growing." 2 months later, Zarin and Maya flew to Ghana. They found Kwame, older, scarred, changed. And they found the boy, a sweet 9-year-old named Malik. Maya dropped to her knees the moment she saw him. "I never stopped loving you. I just didn't know how to protect you." Malik looked at Zarin, then back at her, and in a voice so soft it cracked the sheik's heart, he asked, "Is he my daddy now?" Zarin knelt beside him. "Only if you'll let me be." 1 year later, Maya gave birth to a baby girl named Zamira, blessing, in Arabic. Amin called Malik his big brother. Zarin built schools across West Africa in Maya's name. And every Sunday, the family of 5 ate mangoes under a tree by the ocean. No palace, no protocol, just love. The world still whispered, the royals still judged. But Maya? She became the legend they never saw coming.